Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back at it here from the Earthmaster office. It is about, what is today? Today's Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. A lot of 23s in there. 12:01 p.m. here along the west coast. 1.5 earthquake, the latest there on the Earthquake 3D globe. As noted, as far as activity goes overnight, well, we did see some larger scale movement taking place here. Seen this as I was about headed to bed last night, just before 11 my time. Another 6.1 came in to the area south of Vanuatu, southeast of the Loyalty Islands area, around the New Caledonia region. This area has seen quite a bit of impressive earthquake activity here over the last week or so. Let's see what we've got since last night, though. That 6.1 came in about 11:40. Yeah, about 11:40 or so. Seen some 5s and some 4s following that movement last night. But this is all a rather interesting event of larger scale movement quakes that have been taking place here in this area. We did see that 7.7 kick up on the 18th of this month, so just a few days ago. And this aftershock activity is definitely quite impressive, if that is indeed what it is. I don't know if this is leading to something bigger or not in the area. Could potentially be. We did see some rather large aftershocks. Let's look at the largest magnitudes here. Of course, 7.7, the main quake, that was followed up a day later by a 7.1. And looks like a 6.5. So the one struck last night is the third strongest aftershock, if you will, but the fourth strongest in the sequence of earthquakes here across the area of this trench. And this is relatively shallow earthquake activity. I don't believe we've seen too much deeper movement here into the trench regions. Let me look at the last 30 days. A lot of times these earthquakes over here away from the plate boundary are going to be the deep ones. We did see a couple deep earthquakes down there around 100 to 258 kilometers deep here into a portion of the trench. But nothing major. Either way, definitely some pretty active conditions prevailing out here across this plate boundary. And it is in an area that does see quite a bit of slip rate in this area. I don't have it marked right here, but it is along this plate boundary here between the Pacific plate, which is over here, the super large plate, and the Australia plate here in the kind of orangish color on my end. Right in this area is the subduction zone. There's a couple different trenches here, but the earthquake activity is sitting right about in here. But there is, I can't remember the slip rate accumulated here. But further to the east around the Tonga Trench, that's where we get the big time slip rate. But at the same time, you got to remember all that momentum and pressure here building up this area. Like I say, it doesn't take a whole lot of earthquake or time to produce some large earthquakes within this region. All the momentum and pressure heading towards the west-northwest as pointed on these arrows there. That's the general flow of the GPS positioning systems there. Kind of tells us where the plates are moving off to. All right, let's see if we got anything else overnight here, specifically in this area. Let's go back here to the newest. Still seeing a little bit of activity up here south of the Philippines, mostly 4s. A little bit of activity way up in China. Haven't really seen any large-scale movement here across the Java Trench. I'm still kind of watching that. Actually, it looks like we may have seen a little movement here. 4.4 not showing up on the USGS map, but definitely seen some activity up here south of the Philippines, including a 5.1 into the Tobelo. Is that right? I think that's right, hopefully. 5.1 coming in about 8 o'clock this morning, 45 kilometers deep. Looks like at the extreme southern end here of the Philippine Trench. But still watch this area around the Java Trench here for some potential further movement. I think that's coming Down in New Zealand, slight adjustment overnight here along the plate boundary. Right, if you look at the general plate movement here, all this has got to. This isn't one major subduction zone down here across New Zealand. This is showing the Kermadec Trench and the Hikurangi subduction zone. Over here, it switches over to a different transform boundary, the Alpine Fault across New Zealand. So eventually, this all has to adjust according to all the activity we're seeing up here, and also up further to the northwest. And it looks like we did see some 2s and 3s across an area there in New Zealand. Let me check this out here real quick for GeoNet. Latest one shows a 2.7 down here outside of Sidon. I'm going to attempt to pronounce any name I can't pronounce here, so I'll probably be corrected, but that's okay. Aside from that, looks like we did see within the last hour or so some 3s kicking off here just off North Island, somewhat deep as well, 122 kilometers deep. Looks like that may be at the southern end of the Kermadec Trench, or maybe possibly the northern end here of the Hikurangi subduction zone. Not seeing any major activity overnight. Landslides, yeah, we don't have that right now. Here's the earthquake drums. So let's see here. I was looking for that 6.1 that may have popped up here. I'm guessing it may be... Man, it's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't show up as quite as prominent as those larger quakes did last week. But as far as local activity goes, just a little smaller quake activity it looks like here across North Island, and as mentioned, some of those 2s and 3s kicking off as well. Check out the volcano drums here across New Zealand. Kind of curious about that. Doesn't look like anything major kicking up here. Some of that activity centered around, I'm not going to try this one, but this specific area here, I believe now, let's see. I was thinking maybe this is at 6.1, but it's not. This is only about 10 hours or so ago. Looks like that may be one of the earthquakes listed up there on the map. So, all right, either way, definitely some activity there in New Zealand, 3s and some smaller quakes, but expect some, I believe some adjustment should be taking place here very soon. We've just seen so much activity here across this region over the last 7 days, and very minimal adjustment upstream and across this plate boundary. So just keep that in mind. Java Trench as well. Up into the China area, looks like a couple 4s kicking off there on the globe. And across the Mediterranean and Turkey region, aftershock activity continuing in this area. Getting some 2s here off the coast of Morocco, it looks like, in between this little channel. Atlantic Ocean, quiet. Not a whole lot going on here. It's been awfully quiet. Seems like we'll slow down a little bit on earthquake activity, and then we'll see a couple quakes out here in the Atlantic, and then things will ramp up big time again across the areas of the Pacific Plate. So just been an odd couple months here for earthquake activity building up with very minimal movement out in the Atlantic. Just crazy. South America region, some 2s and 3s. Nothing big going on down there today. Puerto Rico area, a lot of activity, but it looks like that may be some older movement. Let's go see what's going on here. I know we had quite a bit of activity ramping up last night. Looks like so far this morning a couple 2s kicking off here around the Puerto Rico area. All right, up into the States. Texas. Big old state of Texas, and let me tell you, it's big. Big and beautiful. I love that area out there. Couple twos, looks like. Kind of kicking back up out here around the Pecos, Texas area. Looks like about 13 earthquakes centered out here around the oil fields. Out here in the desert, it looks like. Yeah, I'm not really fond of this area. I like it a little bit more green. But listed up here on the map, you can see a lot of these wastewater disposal wells. That's not a, obviously it's not a beautiful swimming pool for the workers to jump in after a hard day of work. It's definitely not that. These are wastewater disposal facilities. And there's a whole process by injecting that into the surface below, either for fracking purposes or whatnot. Either way, a little bit of activity kicking up out there today, it looks like. Oklahoma as well. Nothing major going on out here across the eastern portion of the country. New Madrid zone. One earthquake early this morning, a 1.9 just outside the Mississippi River area. They're into Colorado, it looks like, and northern New Mexico, just outside of Trinidad here, Colorado. Smaller microquakes here. We did have a 2.7 coming in just after 2 o'clock this morning. And out across the west, still looks fairly active. Yellowstone. Let's see what we have going on here across Yellowstone real quick. If it will work. Well, not a whole lot. Some very small microquakes here being reported, it looks like. Very small. Those are probably well below 0.2. All right, let's see. Let's check out the rest of the west here. Get rid of a lot of the microquakes. One earthquake up here outside of Seattle, 3.1. 60 kilometers deep. Also had this activity last night here just north of me, outside of Redding, a little 2.9. Some activity out here across Nevada as well. This has been kind of kicking up. 2.8 and a 2.7 right on the border. A little sequence of swarming once again. This area did see some swarming kicking up here over the last week, 2 weeks. Looks like we're up to a total tally of 111 earthquakes. Again, overnight, some twos out there. Quite a few microquakes in that mix as well. That's just off the... now there's Fish Lake Valley Fault Zone and also the northern Death Valley Fault Zone here. That kind of runs up against the area. Looks like quite a bit of stress being applied across the Ridgecrest area as well. Extreme Southern California, though, has been kind of the quiet zone for the past couple days. Do have a 1.7 outside El Centro. That's just off the Imperial Fault. This area did see some swarming. Has it been within the last 30 days? A little bit of it has. We've seen that pretty good swarm of activity down here off the Imperial Fault, but it's been relatively quiet. We'll see if it starts to kick back up, though. Most of the activity appears to be north of the shear zone here. That's a different type of plate boundary compared to the typical northwest to southeast type fashion of these faults. Kind of like a spring, if you will. I'm sure this is pretty stressed. Let's see. So up north, Gonzales, California, 1.4. Some scattered activity up and down the San Andreas Fault, around the Bay Area as well. Over here around Eureka, we do have a 2.3 near Ferndale, 18 kilometers deep. That is associated down dip here with the Cascadia subduction zone. That's below the surface here. Tremor activity from last night was relatively minor. Only seen about 8 epicenters of tremor, and that was positioned there underneath the Roseburg, Oregon area. We'll see what it looks like a little bit later tonight when they put out the tally of tremors. Up into Alaska, 3.0 coming in across just outside the Cook Inlet area. I don't think we're seeing anything major up there. Some 2s and some smaller microquakes across the Alaska area. Always wanted to visit the Alaska area in the summertime. Went up there a couple years back in the wintertime, and even then that was really beautiful and rather odd, only seeing the sun a couple hours out of the day. Actually, it kind of made for almost a 24-hour sunrise sunset type feature. It was really cool looking. But I definitely want to get back up there. I guess now's the time to do it if I want to. Some 2s out there around Kilauea Volcano again. No major change. Let's see what the latest update here from the hazard notification system from USGS states. Today's, it looks like we had a status report. When was that? Overnight? I think we covered that last night. They are kind of chatting about the Kilauea summit currently showing signs of heightened unrest, and that's due to tilt, inflation, and also a earthquake swarm that's been ongoing there at Kilauea Volcano. Here they mention these observations indicate that magma is accumulating beneath the surface of Kilauea summit region, and I've stated that. Obviously, if you got swelling, it kind of makes sense, right? You got swelling, got inflation, got earthquake swarms, deformation of the land. Well, that's either volcanic gases or the most likely culprit going to be magma. An eruption at Kilauea summit does not appear to be imminent, although heightened unrest suggests that an eruption at Kilauea summit might be possible with little or no warning. A couple nights ago, I said probably within a month. I think we're going to see that. Let me check out today's. Again, that was from last night. Still showing signs of heightened unrest there at Kilauea Volcano. Summit seismicity remains elevated. No active lava. Looks like more than 100 earthquakes were recorded on Saturday, May 20th, including a 3.7. Looks like high levels of volcanic gas are the primary hazard of concern right now, with them closing an area of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So yeah, I think probably pretty soon, folks, we're going to see Kilauea jump back up into the eruptive stage. As of today, though, like I say, there's still earthquake activity occurring. The latest one at 2.4, 5.4 kilometers deep. That's typical of magma below the surface, but also we've seen shallower movement as well. 1 to 2 kilometers, sometimes shallower, indicating probably a broad body of magma down there recharging the system, so to speak. Here's the last 30 days of earthquake activity. Goodness, we got 2 separate type swarms here. One right at the summit level, and one region here to the west of the crater area, and this area over here is typically deeper than what we're seeing over here, but kind of getting a mixed bag of deep and shallow earthquakes all over the place, which is obviously, as mentioned in the update there that the USGS put out, magma on the move. So continue to watch this. Who knows? I do think it will be definitely within a month's time period. I've been saying that for a few days, so I'll say within the next 3 weeks now. All right, let's see. What else do we have out here, folks, for movement? Okay, we did cover the Philippines. That's coming in about 63 kilometers deep. A little bit of activity. Kuril Kamchatka Trench, Japan Trench looks pretty quiet for now. We do have one 4.1 south of Tokyo here, but for the most part, this area again remains quiet. Goodness. All right. Let's see, what else is there? Don't know what's going on down in Antarctica. Who knows? Great wall of ice. Space weather. Let's check out space weather here. Things are dropping a little bit. as far as the potential for some large flaring goes, but don't let your guard down. 3311, which is right here, is now currently facing us. It still harbors some potential there, a little bit of complex structure producing some flaring, although not as impressive as what it was days ago when it was popping off M flares almost continuously. But still, we'll watch this, see if this regrows, re-intensifies. That's about our, well, maybe a little area down here looks like it may be developing. But our main regional sunspot here is going to be this 3311. Behind the bend, not a whole lot developing yet. I'll continue to watch this and keep that in mind, though. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 60, X flare, still somewhat elevated at about 10% chance. Still looks, well, let's check out the UV filter array. Currently no flaring going on, but it still looks fairly impressive in a couple images. Fairly bright region here on the 304 composite image. Doesn't look like any major expected storming in the forecast. Little unsettled conditions here, it looks like, over the next couple nights for the 3-day geomagnetic forecast. So we could see some off and on auroras up there at the higher latitudes. Definitely keep that in mind. Overnight, actually it looks like we did see a M flare peek out. You guys see that? Looks like that was overnight. Let's see, where was that from? Well, wouldn't you guess? 3311. So it kind of produced a pretty good M flare as listed on that map. That's weird. I thought I heard something. Yeah, M3.0 to be exact. So again, these things can just pop up out of the blue and produce a strong flare. So again, we'll continue to keep that 3311 in mind, as it is definitely facing Earth. I don't believe there was a CME produced with that. Most of the time, when you do have a large explosion there, as far as the CME goes, it would be more drawn out. This is just a quick, rapid, impulsive flare, kind of sparked up and then just kind of dissipated. Currently down a little bit into the C flare category, but again, we'll continue to watch that region as it is facing us. Storm Prediction Center here today. As far as the weather activity goes, slight risk for severe weather across mainly Texas, where they're getting much needed rain. 2% chance for tornado. Most of the threat looks to be some hail and some wind there in the hatched areas. Aside from that, broad area of thunderstorm activity, including maybe out here in Northern California, in my neck of the woods. The thunderstorm forecast here does include Redding and just outside of Chico here too. Chico, California is covered in it. I don't know how great of a deal that's going to be. The Cape values are not all that impressive, but we do have the heating and a little bit of moisture out here as well. Let me check out the numerical model for my area. I'm kind of curious. I want to see if we're going to get any storms here today. Be nice. I like to use sometimes the NAM model will show convective activity, and we'll put this into motion here a little bit and see what we have. Thunderstorms firing up here around Mount Lassen, it looks like, a little bit later on this evening. There is what looks like one little thunderstorm here. I don't know if you guys can even see that. A little bitty one right about here where the X is. I'll try and circle that right here. It looks like a thunderstorm maybe directly over Willows, right in Glenn County, just to the southwest here of Chico. We'll see if that develops or not. A little tricky, though, on getting storms to form out here. We don't have that, a whole bunch of moisture, but it is kind of humid. It's kind of a odd year right now. Normally we have a dry north wind, but it's been relatively high dew points, and humidity's been up as well into the mostly 30s and 40s in the daytime. And then at night it really soaks up to about 75, almost 80% humidity here where I live. So, and I'm sure that's got to do with the moisture from the winter time and whatnot. The ground moisture still fairly wet out here. Plus, all the farmers now have 100% water usage, so we're back at filling up the rice fields. And I believe that even these rice fields out here, when they cook in the sun, produces evaporation and is conductive. It kind of adds to the environment to produce thunderstorms out here when things are set up. I mean, it would only make sense, right? Getting that extra humidity, warm moisture in the air to help build some storms. And there's a lot of rice fields out here right now that are just full of water. But all right, Nevada getting some rainfall. Looks like quite a bit of rainfall across the area. All right, guys, have a good day. Stay safe. I don't have anything planned today, so I'll probably be off and on here on the live stream. Just checking in, seeing how things are doing. We'll catch you guys back here, though, sometime later this afternoon. Stay safe out there and have a great Tuesday. Take care, folks.